Europe is on a knife's edge. Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who once bent the continent to his will, now finds his empire crumbling beneath his feet. His armies are scattered from Spain to Poland. His closest allies have switched sides, and around the small Saxon city of Leipzig, 4 great coalition armies are closing in for the kill. Outnumbered nearly 2 to 1, cut off from 140,000 men, and fighting on foreign soil, Napoleon is about to face the largest battle Europe has ever seen. A 4-day storm of cannon fire, cavalry charges, betrayal, and desperate last stands. This is the story of how Napoleon came within reach of victory, only to see it slip through his fingers at the Battle of Leipzig, the battle of the nations that shattered his domination of Europe. Stay with us as we step onto a battlefield where 500,000 men fought to decide the future of the continent. October 1813. Napoleon Bonaparte faces the greatest crisis of his reign as Emperor of the French. His long grinding war in Spain has ended in defeat. An Anglo-Spanish-Portuguese army has crossed the Pyrenees and is now marching onto French soil. In Germany, the Kingdom of Bavaria, once one of Napoleon's most loyal allies, has changed sides and joined the 6th coalition against France. And in Saxony, around the city of Leipzig, 4 great coalition armies are converging on Napoleon from every direction. These are not the same clumsy foes he crushed at Austerlitz in 1805 or Jena in 1806. Prussia, Austria, and Russia have learned bitter lessons from a decade of defeat. Their armies are better organized, better trained, better led, and far more cautious when facing Napoleon. The largest coalition force is the Army of Bohemia, under Austrian Field Marshal Prince Karl von Schwarzenberg, a vast mixed Austrian-Russian-Prussian host of about 194,000 men and 790 guns. To the north, General Blücher commands the Army of Silesia, while the Army of the North, led by Napoleon's former Marshal Bernadotte, now Crown Prince of Sweden, closes in from another direction. Together, they bring about 130,000 men and 536 guns. To the southeast, General Bennigsen's Army of Poland is marching up from Dresden, 34,000 men with 135 guns. In all, the coalition has concentrated around 360,000 troops and 1,500 guns around Leipzig, with Russia providing the bulk of the manpower. One unusual formation in Bernadotte's Army of the North is a single British rocket troop, an experimental artillery unit armed with Congreve rockets. Wildly inaccurate and as dangerous to friend as to foe at long range, their explosive warheads can still be terrifyingly destructive at close quarters. Napoleon's forces around Leipzig are outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. Even so, with about 200,000 men and 700 guns, the Grande Armée is still a force to be reckoned with, a hard core of experienced veterans and commanders, reinforced by growing numbers of young conscripts thrown into the line to replace terrible losses. Another 140,000 French troops can't be used at all. General Rapp's 10th Corps is besieged in Danzig. Marshal Saint-Cyr's 1st Corps is surrounded in Dresden. Marshal Davout's 13th Corps is holding out in Hamburg. Smaller garrisons are scattered and besieged across Germany and Poland. Napoleon's power is tied down, cut off, or trapped. Napoleon himself is about 20 miles north of Leipzig, with the bulk of his army. To the south, Marshal Joachim Murat, the Emperor's flamboyant brother-in-law, stands with about 90,000 men, watching Schwarzenberg's vast army. Napoleon decides to move quickly. He will join Murat, concentrate his strength in the south, and use this temporary local superiority to smash Schwarzenberg's Army of Bohemia before Blücher and Bernadotte can intervene. Murat is ordered to conduct a fighting withdrawal northwards, but at the village of Liebert-Volkowitz, he is drawn into a major clash with the coalition vanguard. Around 12,000 cavalrymen take part in what some describe as the largest cavalry battle in European history. Murat, as always, rides in the thick of the fighting, wrapped in his showy plumes and finery, and narrowly avoids capture by Prussian dragoons. The action ends in a minor coalition victory, with about 2,000 casualties on each side. But it is only the prelude to something far greater. By 16th of October, Napoleon has concentrated most of his forces south of Leipzig. Field Marshal Schwarzenberg, however, has made a serious mistake. Ignoring Russian advice, he has deployed his enormous army on both banks of the Pleiss River. This will cripple his ability to shift troops quickly from one part of the battlefield to another. Napoleon entrusts the northern sector to Marshal Ney with orders to keep a sharp watch for Blücher and Bernadotte. But Napoleon does not expect them to arrive for at least another day. So, Ney receives instructions to send most of his corps south to join the main attack on Schwarzenberg. Schwarzenberg, in contrast, knows that Blücher and Bernadotte are much closer than Napoleon thinks. He also knows Bennigsen's army is marching up from Dresden to join his right flank. This is the moment the coalition has been waiting for, a chance to surround Napoleon with overwhelming numbers and crush him once and for all. But coalition headquarters looks nothing like Napoleon's. In the French camp, one man's will decides everything. Schwarzenberg, by contrast, must somehow coordinate three huge armies from three different empires. Though he is commander-in-chief on paper, his plans must be approved by Tsar Alexander of Russia, the coalition's supreme political leader, while he also manages the egos and interests of King Frederick William of Prussia and Emperor Francis of Austria, all of whom are physically present at his headquarters. After much debate and delay, a plan is finally agreed. General Wittgenstein's corps group will lead the main assault in 4 large columns, while 2 Austrian forces launch flanking attacks west of the Pleiss. At 8 a.m., the great guns open fire. A rolling bombardment crashes out along the line as Russian, Austrian and Prussian infantry begin their advance across cold, muddy fields towards the French positions. The village of Wachau soon falls to Russian infantry, but French artillery fire is so intense that they cannot press further. Then General Victor's Second Corps counterattacks. French infantry storm back into Wachau at bayonet point. The village will change hands twice more that morning. These brutal struggles for small Saxon villages will come to define the fighting around Leipzig. At Markkleeberg, General Kleist's Prussian Second Corps drives out the Polish defenders after fierce, close-quarters combat. On the left bank of the Pleiße, General Meerveldt's Austrian Second Corps struggles over broken, marshy ground to attack well-prepared French positions. Their assault on Konnewitz stalls under heavy fire, but with heavy losses, they gain a foothold in nearby Dölitz. On the coalition right, around 10 a.m., General Klenau's 4th Corps seizes the heights of the Kolmberg and fights its way into Liebert-Volkwitz. Napoleon, watching from Gallows Hill, reacts at once. He sends in General Augereau's 9th Corps and part of the Young Guard to support the threatened sector. MacDonald's 11th Corps is also arriving on his left. French troops retake the Kolmberg, then counterattack into Liebert-Volkwitz, driving out the Austrians and pursuing them across the fields beyond. Their advance is only halted when Russian Cossacks appear on their open left flank, a clear warning that Bennigsen's army of Poland is now close at hand. Across most of the front, the coalition offensive is going nowhere. Whatever gains are made in the morning are quickly lost to French counterattacks. But there is one sector where the Allies meet with more success. General Gyulai's Austrian 3rd Corps advances over marshy ground towards the village of Lindenau, with orders to threaten Napoleon's line of retreat. Marshal Ney is forced to divert Bertrand's 4th Corps to reinforce the position, to keep the road back to France open at all costs. Napoleon has been waiting for Ney's forces to arrive before launching his own great attack on Schwarzenberg. Now 4th Corps is pinned down at Lindenau. Then, even worse, news arrives from the north. Blucher's army of Silesia is approaching from the northwest much sooner than expected. Marshal Marmont's 6th Corps has had to turn about to stop the Prussians. Heavy fighting breaks out around Meuchin, where elite French Marines hold the village with stubborn determination, supported by deadly close-range artillery fire. Nearby, General Dombrowski's Polish division clings to the village of Wiederitsch, under assault from an entire Russian corps. This is a nasty shock for Napoleon. He had believed Blucher was still a day's march away, but the old Prussian, hearing the rumble of cannon to the south, has pushed his troops forward at all speed. His goal is simple: draw as many French units onto himself as possible and ease the pressure on Schwarzenberg's army of Bohemia. Blucher's bold move and the savage struggle for Meuchin may well save the coalition from defeat. Napoleon is now outnumbered across the entire battlefield. Only in the south does he still enjoy a local numerical advantage, smaller than he had hoped, and shrinking by the hour as more Allied reinforcements arrive. Schwarzenberg and the Tsar are already sending up their reserves, but Schwarzenberg discovers, to his dismay, that many of them are on the wrong side of the Pleiße, and precious hours are lost trying to bring them forward. It is now or never for Napoleon. At 2 p.m, he orders his great attack to begin. A grand battery of 180 French guns opens fire in a deafening barrage, smashing the Allied front lines with shot and shell. Then Victor's 2nd Corps, Lauriston's 5th Corps, and the Young Guard step off into the attack. In support, Murat has assembled 2 entire cavalry corps, about 10,000 horsemen. He leads them forward in one of the great massed cavalry charges of the Napoleonic Wars. The cuirassiers of the 1st Heavy Cavalry Division crash through to the main Allied gun line. Some squadrons come close, dangerously close, to the position of the 3 Allied monarchs themselves. But the ground is treacherous, wet, cut up by ditches, hedges, and fences. French horses tire quickly. Formations become disordered. Fresh Austrian cuirassiers and Russian Guard cavalry arrive from the south. A vast, swirling melee erupts, and gradually the French are pushed back to their starting positions. Maison's division of the 5th Corps becomes locked in a desperate struggle for Guldengossa. The fighting surges back and forth through the village. Streets and courtyards fill with dead and wounded from both sides. As Russian and Prussian Guard regiments arrive to reinforce the defenders, the French are finally forced to pull back. Around 4 p.m, the Austrian Reserve Corps at last reaches the front and renews the assault on Markkleeberg, one of the day's original objectives, now finally secured at heavy cost. By 5 p.m, it is clear that Napoleon no longer has the reserves to force a decisive victory in the south. To the north, Meuchin is still held by French Marines and their supporting guns, but York's Prussian Corps continues its attacks despite dreadful casualties. Marshal Marmont is wounded twice, but refuses to leave the field. At last, a brilliant charge by Prussian hussars triggers a French rout. Meuchin falls as Marmont's battered corps streams back towards Leipzig. As darkness falls around 6 p.m, the guns fall silent. The first day of the Battle of Leipzig has cost the French about 25,000 casualties, the coalition at least 30,000. Napoleon has come close to victory, but not close enough. The chance to deliver a knockout blow has slipped through his fingers. Sunday, 17th of October, brings a lull. Both armies are exhausted by the previous day's savage fighting. Poniatowski, the Polish prince and newly made Marshal of France, reports grimly, 8 corps have lost a third of their men and many officers. All ammunition stocks have been used up. The slightest delay in resupply could cause us heavy losses, as we have not enough to maintain combat for 1 hour. Napoleon needs time to rest his troops and to bring up desperately needed ammunition. He also makes one last attempt at diplomacy. He sends a message to his father-in-law, Emperor Francis the Mauvais of Austria, suggesting an armistice and, for the first time, offering real concessions. But the Allies are no longer interested. They know time is on their side. Every hour brings fresh troops into their ranks. The only major fighting that day takes place in the north, where Blücher continues his attacks. Russian infantry storm Utrecht, then Gohlis. Russian hussars charge and rout part of Arrighi's 3rd Cavalry Corps. Napoleon receives 14,000 reinforcements as Regnier's French Saxon 7th Corps marches in from the northeast. But that same day, the coalition gains more than 100,000 extra men around Leipzig. Colloredo's Austrian 1st Corps, Bennigsen's Army of Poland, and Bernadotte's Army of the North. Though Bernadotte is widely criticized for the leisurely pace of his march, Napoleon realizes that next day he will face odds of nearly 2-1. It is time to begin planning a retreat. Monday morning, 18th of October. The sun rises over 40 square miles of battlefield, on which nearly 500,000 soldiers and around 2,000 cannon are now deployed. French, Germans, Russians, Austrians, Poles, Italians, Swedes, Dutch, and even a small British contingent. Leipzig has truly become the battle of the nations. Preparing for withdrawal, Napoleon pulls his troops back into a tighter defensive ring around the city. He orders Bertrand's 4th Corps to march west to secure the line of retreat through Lindenau. 2 divisions of the Young Guard under Marshal Mortier move in to hold the position. Schwarzenberg's plan is to close the net with 6 converging attacks around Leipzig. Shortly after 8 a.m., fighting begins again in the south. Austrian troops seize Dölitz, but Marshal Oudinot leads a Young Guard division in a ferocious counterattack and drives them out. The reverse alarms Schwarzenberg so much that he recalls Gyulai's 3rd Corps to shore up his own line, a cautious move that slows the Allied advance. Further east, General Barclay de Tolly finds little opposition. His troops march in and occupy Wachau and Liebertwolkwitz, villages that had been scenes of desperate struggle just 2 days before, now barely defended. Barclay halts to wait for Bennigsen to come up on his right before pressing on. Bennigsen has further to march, but around midday his troops have driven back MacDonald's corps and taken their assigned objectives. Now they too wait for Bernadotte's Army of the North to link up on their flank for the final push. But Bernadotte is once again moving with painful slowness, for reasons many believe have more to do with politics and personal caution than with the battlefield situation. He seems in no hurry to face his former master, Napoleon, in a direct fight. Blücher, as ever, has no such hesitations. He throws Russian infantry against Leipzig's northern defences in another attack, which is beaten back with heavy losses. By 2 p.m., Napoleon is under pressure on every front, but his lines are still holding. His main focus now is the village of Probstheide, key to his southern front, and now under assault by Kleist's Prussian 2nd Corps. The French have turned Probstheide into a fortress. As the Prussians advance, they are torn apart by musketry and artillery at close range. The village is soon engulfed in smoke and flames, as fighting rages in gardens, streets, and courtyards. Some Prussian regiments lose half their men trying to storm the village. 3 French generals are killed, organizing its defense. Napoleon even sends in Friant's division of the Guard to hold the position at all costs. To the north, Bernadotte's army finally enters the battle in earnest. Marshal Marmont has massed 137 French guns around Schönefeld, which pour fire into the advancing Russians. Bernadotte responds by concentrating 200 guns of his own. The fields around Schönefeld are soon carpeted with dead and wounded, as the sheer volume of artillery fire makes it impossible for either side to advance. Around 3 p.m., Von Bülow's Prussian Corps, supported by Austrian Jaegers and the small British rocket detachment, launches an attack on Paunsdorf. Reynier's 7th Corps cannot withstand the onslaught. An hour later, around 3,000 Saxon soldiers abruptly abandon their positions, march over to the enemy, and surrender. Disillusioned with Napoleon and desperate to save their ravaged homeland, the Saxons decide that their war is over. The gaping hole they leave in the French line is quickly filled by Guard cavalry, but the momentum has now swung firmly to the Allies. The coalition juggernaut is rolling forward and cannot be stopped. Towards dusk, under relentless Russian pressure, Marmont abandons the burning ruins of Schönefeld. Prussian troops take Sellerhausen. In the south, Probstheide still holds, but Napoleon's position is now desperate. His army is exhausted, outnumbered, nearly encircled, and critically short of ammunition. The third day's fighting has cost each side another 25,000 casualties. Napoleon has no choice. He gives the order to retreat. Under cover of darkness and early morning fog, the French army withdraws behind Leipzig's walls. At 4 a.m., the long column begins to cross the single bridge over the Elster River, the only route back to France. There has been time, and there are materials to build additional bridges. But through a fatal failure of staff work, no such orders are ever given. Nor is there any clear plan for the defense of Leipzig itself, which is left to a patchwork of understrength formations, mostly Polish and German units. Around 10 a.m., Napoleon leaves Leipzig. Behind him, scenes of mounting chaos unfold. The narrow streets are packed with soldiers, guns, wagons, and wounded. Units become intermingled. Panic is in the air. Half an hour later, shells begin to crash into the city as coalition forces launch an all-out assault from the north, east, and south. French rearguards hold the city gates as long as they can, but are overwhelmed, and savage street fighting breaks out. Beneath the Elster Bridge, a barge loaded with gunpowder has been moored, ready to destroy the crossing once the rearguard is safely across. Around 2 p.m., the corporal in charge of this grim task sees Russian skirmishers on the far bank. Fearing they are about to seize the bridge, he lights the fuse. The bridge is still crowded with men, horses, and guns. The explosion is enormous. The bridge disintegrates in a cloud of smoke, fire, and splintered timber. Around 30,000 French troops and 30 generals are trapped on the wrong side of the river. Panic spreads among those cut off. Many throw down their weapons and surrender. Others hurl themselves into the river, trying desperately to swim for safety against the current. Among the trapped is Prince Józef Poniatowski, the Polish hero whom Napoleon had promoted to Marshal of France only 3 days earlier. Bleeding from multiple wounds, he refuses to be taken alive. He rides his horse into the Elster, but as the animal scrambles up the far bank, it slips and rolls over onto him. The wounded marshal disappears beneath the cold, muddy water and drowns. His death becomes one of the enduring legends of the battle. Marshal MacDonald is also stranded on the far side. He decides he will either escape or die in the attempt. He finds a place where engineers have felled 2 trees across the water as a makeshift bridge. MacDonald climbs onto the trunks and begins to edge his way across. And there I was, he later recalls, 1 foot on either trunk, and the abyss below me. A high wind was blowing. I was wearing a large cloak, and fearing that someone would grab at it, I got rid of it. I was already 3/4 of the way across when some men decided to follow me. Their unsteady feet caused the trunks to shake, and I fell into the water. By luck, he can touch the bottom, but the far bank is steep and slippery. Russian skirmishers appear and fire at him at point-blank range, but miss. Nearby French soldiers drive them off, and haul the exhausted marshal to safety. MacDonald remembers, I was wet from head to foot, breathless and sweating heavily from my efforts. Marshal Marmont, who had got across early in the day, gave me a horse. I wanted dry clothes more, but they were not to be had. The destruction of the bridge turns an already heavy defeat into one of the greatest disasters of Napoleon's career. That afternoon, the three allied monarchs, Tsar Alexander, King Frederick William of Prussia, and Emperor Francis of Austria, ride into the center of Leipzig to celebrate their great victory. But it has come at a terrible cost. Exact figures are impossible to know. But in 4 days of fighting, the coalition armies suffer at least 52,000 casualties. Napoleon's losses are even more disastrous for France. About 47,000 killed and wounded, 35,000 taken prisoner, and 325 guns lost. More men are killed and wounded at Leipzig than in any other European battle before the First World War. 2 days later, Sir George Jackson, the British ambassador to Austria, rides over the battlefield with Austrian Foreign Minister Metternich. He writes, "A more revolting and sickening spectacle I never beheld. Scarcely could we move forward a step without passing over the dead body of some poor fellow, gashed with wounds and clotted with blood. Another, perhaps, without an arm or a leg, here and there a headless trunk, or a head only. It made one's blood run cold to glance upon the upturned faces of the dead. We got over this field of glory as quickly as we could. Napoleon has suffered a calamitous defeat. He has lost the battle for Germany. His dominance of Europe is shattered. With about 80,000 survivors, he begins a fighting retreat towards the French frontier. The 100,000 men still holding isolated fortresses across Germany and Poland no longer have any hope of relief, though some will hold out stubbornly for months. Marshal Murat takes his leave of the emperor, swearing loyalty, while secretly planning to save his throne in Naples by switching sides. It is the last time the two men will ever meet. 11 days after Leipzig, at Hanau, Napoleon's former allies, the Bavarians, attempt to block his path with 40,000 men. Their commander, General von Wrede, has served under Napoleon in many campaigns. Seeing his deployment, Napoleon remarks dryly, "I made him a count, but I could not make him a general." He orders the Imperial Guard to attack. The Bavarian army is driven from the field, and 3 days later, the battered French army reaches the safety of Mainz. Napoleon hurries on to Paris to try to contain the political shock of his defeat. Behind him, his empire is unraveling. On 4th of November, the coalition proclaims the dissolution of the Confederation of the Rhine. Many of its former German members now turn against France. In the Illyrian provinces, local revolts, Austrian invasion, and British naval power sweep away French rule. In northern Italy, Eugène de Beauharnais retreats steadily before the advance of Austrian General von Hiller. Around Hamburg, Marshal Davout and 34,000 men will soon find themselves isolated and under siege. Napoleon's situation is desperate, but the story is not over. In the next campaign, fighting now for France itself, he will show Europe that, even in defeat, he is still one of history's greatest masters of war. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps this channel bring the past to life.